Sometimes the ones we fear are the ones trying hardest to protect us. The night Jack started growling at the baby's crib, the rain outside hadn't yet begun to fall. The house on Willow Bend Drive in Asheville, North Carolina, was quiet except for the hum of the old ceiling fan. But Jack, their loyal, quiet German shepherd, stood in the doorway of the nursery. Eyes locked on the far corner of the room, his body rigid, growl low and constant. Mike and Lisa Carter had no explanation. Their baby girl, Autumn, only 3 months old, slept peacefully. But every night, at exactly 9:12 p.m., Jack positioned himself like a sentinel. He wasn't barking. He wasn't pacing. He was watching and warning. Welcome to the HeartForce channel, where you and I find more meaning in life through dog stories. Before we continue, please comment below and let us know where you're listening to this video. And if you have any dog stories of your own, feel free to share them with everyone. Jack had been with the Carters for 6 years. Mike found him at a rescue shelter just outside Boone, where the German Shepherd had been listed as unadoptable due to his intense guarding tendencies. But Mike saw something different. Jack wasn't aggressive. He was alert, intuitive, a survivor. Just like Mike, a former firefighter trying to rebuild a quieter life. Lisa, an ER nurse who had seen her share of trauma, had taken longer to warm to Jack. But over time, his loyalty won her over, especially when Lisa became pregnant, and Jack never left her side. After Autumn was born, Jack changed. He stopped following Mike on runs. He stopped sleeping at the foot of their bed. Instead, he parked himself outside the nursery like it was his full-time job. At first, it seemed sweet, until the growling started. The first night was subtle, just a faint rumble in his chest. By the fourth night, the growl had deepened, more urgent. No barking, just that low, bone-deep warning. Always at 9:12 p.m., and always aimed at the same corner of the room. I think something's wrong, Lisa whispered one night, her hands tightening on the baby monitor. It's not normal for him to act like this. He's trying to tell us something. Mike had shrugged it off. It's probably nothing. Maybe he hears something outside. But Jack never looked out the window. His attention was always fixed on that one spot, where the wall met the floor just beside the heating vent. Lisa began closing the nursery door earlier each evening, but Jack would nudge it open with his snout, returning to his post. Then one morning, Mike found deep scratches on the wood floor. Jack had tried to dig through it. Mike decided to inspect the wall himself. He found nothing unusual, no cracks, no sounds, no drafts. But when he moved closer, a strange chill crept up his spine. There was a coldness that didn't match the rest of the house. The following day, Lisa came home from her shift pale and shaken. "One of the babies at the hospital," she began, her voice cracking. She came in with unexplained respiratory problems. Her parents didn't even notice anything was wrong. You know what saved her? Their dog. The dog kept dragging the baby's blanket out of the nursery until they realized something was off. Mike stared at her. "You think that's what Jack's doing?" Lisa's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't know what I believe, but I don't think he's trying to scare us. I think he's trying to protect Autumn." That night, Jack did something new. At exactly 9:12 p.m., he walked into the nursery and growled louder than ever before. Then he stood up on his hind legs and began pawing at the vent. Mike, now fully alarmed, pulled off the metal grate, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The insulation behind the vent was soaked, mold-blackened and thick. The smell was immediate and sickening. He staggered back, coughing. "Lisa," he shouted, "get Autumn out of here. Now." The mold inspection confirmed it. Toxic black mold had been growing in the nursery wall, undetectable by sight, sound, or smell, except to Jack. The inspector shook his head. "If your dog hadn't reacted the way he did, your baby would have ended up in the hospital within weeks. This stuff is no joke." Mike looked over at Jack, sitting calmly in the hallway, his ears still perked toward the nursery. His eyes were tired but watchful. "He saved her," Lisa whispered, clutching Autumn to her chest. The next day, while the remediation crew began tearing open the nursery wall, Mike took Jack on a walk. Neighbors watched from their porches. Some crossed the street. Rumors had started: the growling dog, the dangerous shepherd, A few parents had already warned their kids not to go near the Carters' yard. Mike could hear the judgment in their voices, but he kept walking, because Jack had seen what no one else had. The neighborhood meeting was quiet at first, too quiet. Folding chairs scraped the hardwood floor of the Willow Bend Community Center, where half the town had come to hear the latest HOA concerns. But everyone knew the real reason they were there. The Carters and their dog. Item 4 on the agenda, said Howard Barnes, the HOA president, squinting through his glasses. Community concerns regarding the Carter residents, specifically the ongoing behavior of their German Shepherd. Mike sat near the back, jaw tight, arms crossed. Lisa had stayed home with Autumn, who had started wheezing again. The mold was being removed, but the damage, both environmental and emotional, was already done. Howard cleared his throat. We've had 6 written complaints in the last 2 weeks. Growling, scratching, possible danger to children. The community is asking for resolution. A woman in the front row, Bethany Moore, a PDA officer and mother of 3, stood up. My son is terrified, she said. He hears the growling every night. We all do. And now my youngest says he won't walk by the Carter's house without holding my hand. It's not normal. It was mold, Mike said, standing up. Black mold, hidden in the nursery wall. Jack was warning us. He saved our daughter. That's what you say, Bethany replied coolly. But how do we know the next growl won't turn into something worse? He's never hurt anyone. Mike's voice shook with emotion. He's protected us. Howard tapped the podium. We understand your concern, Mike, but emotions aside, safety is our top priority. Perhaps Jack should be relocated during the remediation process for everyone's peace of mind. Mike looked around the room. These were his neighbors, people he had barbecued with, helped during power outages, delivered firewood to during snowstorms. Now they wouldn't even meet his eyes. Back home, Jack lay curled by the kitchen door, ears back, sensing the tension. Lisa was rocking Autumn in the living room, soft music playing, but her eyes were heavy with worry. They want us to get rid of him, don't they? She asked. Mike nodded, or at least remove him temporarily. Barnes suggested a boarding kennel outside the county. Said he'd even cover the first 2 nights as a show of good faith. Lisa's mouth tightened. He wants our silence. He wants to erase the part where Jack saved our daughter. Mike sat down beside her. They don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want their street quiet again. Autumn let out a soft cough. Later that night, Jack rose again at 9:12 p.m., pacing toward the newly opened section of the wall, now stripped to its studs. He sniffed, growled faintly, then looked up at Mike. Is there more? Mike asked under his breath, kneeling beside him. Jack stepped forward, nudging the edge of the floorboard. Mike peeled it back. His heart sank. There, beneath the nursery floor, the damage was far worse than they thought. Wood rot, buckling support beams, even visible water channels leading toward the foundation. The mold had been just a symptom. The structure was decaying from the inside out. The inspector had missed this, but Jack hadn't. The following day, Mike called in a structural engineer, Candace Wright from Greensboro. She crawled under the house and stayed there for almost 2 hours. When she emerged, she looked pale. This house is a collapse risk, she said, especially that back wall under the nursery. The mold was just the beginning. Mike stared at her, stunned. But the inspection passed when we bought it. Candace shook her head. You were misled. The foundational support in that corner is compromised. If your dog hadn't warned you, if you hadn't opened that wall, your daughter could have. She didn't finish the sentence. That night, Lisa held Autumn close and cried. Not out of fear, but out of guilt. I was scared of Jack, she whispered. I thought something was wrong with him. I didn't see he was trying to tell us. Mike wrapped his arms around them both. We still have time. Thanks to him. In the hallway, Jack watched from the shadows. His eyes, no longer just alert, now looked weary. He had carried the weight of a warning no one wanted to hear. And still he stayed. Jack was a ghost on the street now. Children pointed and whispered from behind their parents. Joggers crossed to the opposite sidewalk. And the neighborhood Facebook page lit up with thinly veiled posts about certain aggressive dogs and how silence doesn't mean safety. Mike read every comment. He didn't respond, but each one felt like a match dropped on gasoline. Lisa stayed off social media, but she saw it in the eyes of the women at the grocery store. The nurses at work. The cold smiles. The lowered voices. The way conversations stopped when she walked in. "I thought we were part of this community," she said one night, eyes filled with quiet hurt. Mike nodded, jaw clenched. "We were, until our dog started telling the truth." The engineer's full report arrived on Friday. It confirmed what Jack had known all along. The house was structurally unsound. The mold had compromised the beams, and whoever approved the home inspection before the Carters bought it had either been careless or corrupt. That night, Mike sat on the back porch, Jack lying at his feet. He pulled up the inspector's name on his phone. Dale McAllister, a name that rang a bell. Sure enough, a quick search revealed Dale's connection to a string of rushed inspections in the area, always under contract with the same realtor. Mike dug deeper and found what he feared. Half a dozen complaints filed over the last 2 years, all quietly dismissed. "Someone's been covering this up," he muttered. Jack stirred. The next day, Mike drove into downtown Asheville and filed a formal complaint with the county housing board. Then he drove to the local paper, the Blue Ridge Ledger, and handed over copies of the report, the photos, and everything he'd uncovered. "This isn't just our story," he told the young journalist at the desk. "It's about the system failing. And the only reason we caught in time was our dog." The journalist, Aubrey Lane, looked at the images of black mold and rotted beams, then at the photo of Jack lying next to the baby's crib. "You're telling me he saved your daughter?" Mike nodded. "Every single night, he tried to warn us." She sat back, the weight of the story settling in. "We'll run it." But by the time the article came out, the real damage had already been done. That Monday, Mike opened the mailbox to find a formal letter from the HOA. Due to ongoing concerns about the safety of your dog and failure to comply with temporary removal, we are issuing a petition for the forced removal of the animal from the premises. Lisa read the letter 3 times before saying anything. "They're trying to take him from us." That night, something broke in Mike. He sat down on the living room floor beside Jack and held the dog's massive head in his lap. "I failed you," he whispered. "You did everything right. You protected this family, and they're treating you like a threat." Jack's ears perked, as if he sensed the sorrow behind the words. He didn't move, just stayed still, watching Autumn sleep in Lisa's arms. "She doesn't know," Mike said, voice cracking. "She'll grow up and maybe never remember what you did. But I'll never forget." Lisa walked over quietly and knelt beside them. "We won't let them take him." By Thursday morning, something incredible happened. The article hit newsstands and social media. The headline read, "The Dog Who Saw the Truth. How a German Shepherd Saved a Baby from a Hidden Threat." Within hours, the story spread. Local news stations picked it up. Comments flooded in, not from neighbors, but from strangers across the state and in the country. Veterans praised Jack's instincts. Parents shared stories of their own dogs, strange warnings. Nurses, inspectors, and even a retired judge commented on how often dogs picked up what humans missed. The Carters' inbox overflowed with letters, donations, even offers of legal support. Jack had gone from pariah to hero, but not everyone was celebrating. Bethany Moore posted a lengthy rebuttal, accusing the Carters of emotional manipulation and exploiting a situation for attention. She claimed Jack had once growled at her youngest son, though she had never reported it. Others followed suit. The neighborhood divided like a fault line cracking under pressure. And then came the unthinkable. That Saturday night, Mike heard a bang against the fence. He raced outside and found the back gate swinging open. Jack was gone. Panic surged. "Jack!" He called into the dark. "Jack!" No answer. Lisa joined him, Autumn wrapped in a blanket, sobbing. "He never runs. He never." He wouldn't just leave. Mike's stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had let Jack out. And Jack was gone. The woods behind Willow Bend Drive were thick with branches and secrets. Mike ran through them with a flashlight clutched in one hand, calling Jack's name over and over into the freezing night. No koyar yingling. No soft try to pause. No familiar growl in the shadows. Just silence. Lisa stood by the road, holding Autumn close, rocking her gently as tears streaked down her face. "Come back, Jack. Please come back." Mike returned after midnight, scratched, muddy, and shaking his head. No tracks. Nothing. Someone had opened that gate, and someone didn't want Jack to return. The next morning, Lisa made a post that shattered the internet. "Our dog Jack is missing. He saved our baby's life. He saved our home. And now he's gone. Please, if you see him, help bring him home." She included the photo, a grainy image of Jack curled beside Autumn's crib, his eyes watchful, ears alert. It was a protector's pose, one the world could feel. Within hours, the post exploded, shared 30,000 times, picked up by national pet rescue groups. A local station ran a segment titled, "Community Hero Dog Missing. Was he targeted?" Volunteers gathered in Asheville, Swannanoa, and as far as Hendersonville, canvassing trails, setting up posters, and leaving food out. But 3 days passed, and nothing. Mike sat in the nursery one evening, staring at the crib, now quiet and empty. Autumn had been moved to their room until the house could be rebuilt. The reconstruction company had already gutted most of the damage, but the emotional rot was harder to reach. Jack's favorite toy sat untouched in the corner, a shredded rope. He used to toss it in the air and catch it like a pup. Lisa sat beside Mike and took his hand. "What if we don't find him?" Mike didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small notepad. It was the engineer's report again. On the back, he had scribbled something else. A list of names. People who had filed complaints against Dale McAllister. "This started long before us," he said. "Jack didn't just uncover mold. He uncovered corruption. That's why this neighborhood turned on him. On us." Lisa looked at the list. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying Jack was never just warning us. He was pointing us to something bigger." The next morning, Mike returned to the Blue Ridge Ledger with a thick envelope. New documents, a timeline, and one piece of hard evidence. A voice recording from a construction worker who had overheard Dale talking to a realtor about fast-tracking another money pit. The story broke that afternoon, and it spread like wildfire. Now it wasn't just about a brave dog. It was about lies, greed, and a neighborhood built on rotting promises. Local officials launched an investigation. A class-action lawsuit began forming, and Jack's story became national news. But still, no Jack. Day 5, a call came in. A man named Tom Reeves, a retired forest ranger from Marshall, had spotted a German shepherd near a remote creek trail about 40 miles north. "He wouldn't let me near him," Tom said, "but he was limping. Looked like he'd been out there for days." Mike didn't wait. He grabbed his truck keys and drove like his heart was hanging on the edge of a cliff. It took an hour of hiking, 2 long whistles, and finally, a soft rustling behind a cedar tree. Then the eyes, amber brown, tired, but alert. "Jack," Mike whispered. The German shepherd stepped forward slowly. His leg was swollen, a gash across his paw, but he didn't whimper. He just kept walking until his head reached Mike's hands and he collapsed into his arms. "You came back," Mike choked out. "You found your way back." Jack didn't move, just pressed his nose into Mike's chest and stayed there. Like always, like home. They arrived back in Willow Bend as the sun dipped behind the mountains. Lisa stood in the yard with Autumn in her arms, tears pouring down her cheeks as Jack limped across the lawn toward her. Autumn reached out her tiny hand and touched his fur. Jack lay down, tail thumping once. The community watched from behind curtains. Some ashamed, some moved, none untouched. 2 days later, the HOA dropped the petition. Bethany Moore deleted her social media accounts, and Mike Carter received a letter from the North Carolina Department of Consumer Protection. An official investigation had been opened against Dale McAllister and several associated parties. Justice, slow and staggering, had begun its crawl, and Jack slept by the crib again, not growling, just resting, because this time the danger had been named. It took 6 weeks to rebuild the nursery. Mike did most of the work himself. He tore up old floorboards, reinforced beams, sealed the walls, and laid down a new soft rug. The house no longer smelled like decay. It smelled like paint, pine, and possibility. Jack lay nearby the whole time, his leg healing slowly. He didn't bark much. He didn't growl. But every now and then, he'd glance toward the window, still watching, still guarding. Because once a protector knows danger, he never stops looking. The day Autumn returned to her room, sunlight poured in through the new window. Lisa placed a soft mobile above the crib, while Mike held Jack's collar gently, guiding him in. Jack sniffed the room once, then walked over to the crib. He sat down, straight and tall, like he'd never left. Autumn cooed and reached out to him. Jack leaned forward, placed his head beside her, and sighed. They were home. The investigation against the inspector made state headlines. The paper published a full expose linking Dale McAllister to multiple faulty inspections and payoffs. At least a dozen families came forward, many of them elderly or low income, all victims of the same quiet scam. But it wasn't just the mold or the money that moved people. It was Jack. His photo, nose pressed to Autumn's crib, eyes glowing like lanterns, became a symbol of loyalty, of the instincts we ignore, of truth that refuses to be silenced. One national outlet called him the dog who saw what we didn't. In late spring, the Carters hosted a community gathering. Mike grilled burgers. Lisa served lemonade. Autumn, now crawling, giggled as she chased grasshoppers in the yard. And Jack landed the big oak tree, tongue out, tail flicking, watching it all. People came, even the ones who had once turned away. Bethany Moore arrived near sunset. She walked across the lawn slowly, holding her son's hand. She stood before Jack, eyes glassy. "I was wrong," she whispered. Jack looked at her, then stood up and took 2 steps forward. He let her son pet his head. Bethany wiped a tear from her cheek. Lisa knelt beside Jack that night, brushing his fur gently. "You healed this place," she whispered. "You saved more than Autumn. You saved us all." Mike nodded. "They'll never forget what you did." And it was true. Jack didn't just uncover rot in the walls. He uncovered rotten hearts, in systems, in silence. And by standing firm, by growling when no one else dared, he helped the town find its voice again. In a world that often overlooks the quiet, the growling, the inconvenient voices, we are reminded by Jack that sometimes the truest protectors are the ones we misunderstand. Jack wasn't just a dog. He was a truth teller. He taught a family to listen, a town to see, and a community to change. His loyalty saved a life, but his courage saved many more. When injustice hides in plain sight, may we all be a little more like Jack, unafraid to stand, unafraid to warn, and forever faithful to those who need us most. Did this story move you? Have you ever had a dog who changed your life? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the HeartForce channel for more powerful dog stories that inspire hope, healing, and transformation.